When I first met Olivia, I believed she was everything I'd ever wanted in a partner. Ambitious, charming, and driven. She thrived in her career at the marketing firm, often boasting about late-night brainstorming sessions and the long hours she poured into her projects. I admired her dedication, but I also noticed how the job seemed to swallow more and more of her time. I told myself it was just the price of success. Our son, Jacob, was 5 then, bright, curious, full of questions that never seemed to stop. He was my anchor on nights when Olivia came home late, smelling faintly of wine and perfume. She'd brush off my concerns with a tired smile, saying, "It's just part of the corporate world. You wouldn't understand." I trusted her, maybe more than I should have, but cracks began to show. She was distracted at home, constantly glued to her phone. Laughter slipped out during texts she never shared with me. Her work trips became more frequent, and I noticed she always seemed to come back with the same glow, a glow that had nothing to do with PowerPoint slides or marketing campaigns. The truth hit me on a random Tuesday night. I was tucking Jacob into bed when Olivia's laptop pinged on the kitchen counter. She had left it open, carelessly assuming I wouldn't check. Normally I wouldn't, but something in me couldn't resist. And there it was, an email thread between her and her boss, Martin. Flirtatious lines thinly veiled as inside jokes. Attachments with late-night hotel receipts. And then the final blow. Last night was unforgettable. Same place next week. I stare at the words, my pulse pounding in my ears. Every denial she'd given me, every excuse about late nights, it all collapsed into one undeniable truth. My wife, the woman I had trusted, was betraying me in the most cliché way possible. When she came home later that night, humming to herself, I felt the weight of my decision pressing against my chest. I didn't yell. I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I looked at Jacob sleeping peacefully in his bed and realized something. This wasn't just about me. It was about him, too. The next morning, I acted as if nothing was wrong. Olivia kissed me goodbye, her perfume lingering in the kitchen, and rushed off to work. Jacob sat at the table eating cereal, blissfully unaware of the storm about to hit. I forced a smile for him, but inside, my resolve hardened. Instead of going to my own job, I drove to a nearby cafe and began documenting everything. I printed out the emails, the hotel confirmations, even screenshots from her phone bill that showed late-night calls to Martin. I wasn't preparing for a confrontation. I was preparing for custody. For days, I gathered evidence quietly. Meanwhile, Olivia's behavior became more brazen. She slipped up one evening when she came home smelling of whiskey, her blouse buttoned wrong. Jacob ran to hug her, but she barely acknowledged him, her eyes too busy scanning her phone. That was the moment I knew. She wasn't just betraying me. She was neglecting him, too. The breaking point came on a Friday. Olivia told me she'd be staying overnight for a strategy meeting. I kissed her on the cheek, nodded, and waited until she left. Then I called a trusted friend, someone who owed me a favor, and asked him to meet me outside the very hotel listed in those emails. We didn't have to wait long. There she was, walking into the lobby with Martin, laughing, her hand brushing against his arm like a woman without a husband or child waiting at home. I didn't confront her. Instead, I took photos, time-stamped and undeniable. That night, Jacob and I stayed up late, building Legos in the living room. I looked at his innocent face, his wide smile, and I made the hardest choice a father could make. I wouldn't let him grow up thinking this was normal. I wouldn't let him see love twisted into lies. By Monday, my lawyer had the full package: emails, receipts, photos. The petition for divorce and custody was filed that afternoon. When Olivia walked through the door later, expecting the usual routine, she found me sitting at the table with a folder in front of me. "Sit down," I said quietly. "We need to talk." Olivia froze in the doorway, sensing the shift in the air. She sat down slowly, her eyes darting to the folder like it might explode. I slid the papers across to her, without a word. Her fingers trembled as she opened it, scanning the first few lines before her face drained of color. You filed for divorce?" she stammered, her voice cracking. "I did," I replied evenly. "And I'm filing for custody of Jacob. I have everything I need. proof of your affair, proof that you lied, proof that you neglected your own family. You left me no choice." Her mouth opened and closed like she wanted to argue, but the stack of evidence silenced her. Hotel bills, emails, photos, all staring back at her like a mirror she couldn't escape. "It wasn't serious," she whispered weakly. "It was just a mistake. Please, we can fix this." I shook my head, calm but firm. "You made your choice the first night you walked into that hotel. And every time after, I won't raise our son in a house built on betrayal." Her tears came then, streaming down her face, but they didn't move me. For years, I had given her everything: trust, loyalty, patience. In return, she gambled our family away for the attention of her boss. Jacob padded into the room just then, clutching a toy car. "Daddy, can you help me?" he asked, looking at me with those bright, trusting eyes. I stood, walked him, and crouched down. "Of course, buddy," I said softly, ruffling his hair. As I led him away, Olivia called after me, her voice desperate, but I didn't look back. The weeks that followed were brutal. Lawyers, courtrooms, whispered gossip from neighbors. But I stayed steady. Every late-night document review, every tense meeting with my attorney, I pictured Jacob's smile and reminded myself why I was fighting. In the end, the court saw what I already knew. Olivia's betrayal wasn't just between her and me. It was a pattern of selfishness that put Jacob at risk. Custody was awarded in my favor. The day it was finalized, I packed Jacob's bag, and we left for a new home, a small house, nothing fancy, but filled with peace. No lies, no secrets, no shadows. Olivia still calls sometimes, begging for another chance, but I no longer answer. My coldest response wasn't words. It was walking away and never looking back. Because sometimes the greatest revenge is giving your child a safe, honest life their other parent never could.